We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
You're the joker, the expert, the voice, but you want a background. A vision of weakness, you're dull, but your voice is so loud. I'm the butt of your joke, cause that's all more girls you hang round. You kill to make your imprint on my soul.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith, Fans Forum, Monday night, 6 till 7, as always, joined by a panel. George, Lee's with us tonight, Chippers, Spenny, Barry, Kevin, and Darren. Welcome to you all. And just as we've come on air, breaking news from Buckingham Palace that the King wanted to share with us that he's had another diagnosis of another cancer that he's got within his body, unfortunately. So he's having to take a step back from public duties. So just as we're going on air, the news breaking that he's going to take a step back from public duties. He wanted to put this out there to avoid any newspaper speculation, which of course, if somebody gets a hold of the story and it goes out, that would be that. But he's expecting that this shouldn't be a problem, shouldn't be a concern, and that he could be back in public life. But big news breaking on the Royal front, not the Newcastle United front. But as for Newcastle United, played out an entertaining 4-4 draw. And I'm going to get this out before the panel says anything. What I should really have said yesterday was congratulations to Sean Longstaff on a bloody good performance and 2 great goals. Because, I think amidst the whole result and, the conceding 4 goals and, this player's to blame and that player's to blame, I think Sean Longstaff getting his first brace in a black and white shirt, it's gone completely amiss. It's almost been forgotten. So well done, Sean Longstaff. 2 good goals. That's what you need to add to your game. A good midfield player should be getting 15, 20 goals a season if possible in a good team. And, well done to you for getting those goals. So I've got that out. I needed to say it. I've had my say on the game anyway this weekend. So, George, over to you. 4-4. Not what we were expecting. I think most of us expected after the Villa game, Newcastle to turn it on and get another win. Back-to-back wins would have been great, but it wasn't to be. And I think we've got to give credit to Luton. They came, they fought, and they got a point, a well-deserved point. And
to their manager as well. If you recall on Friday night on 3 Amigos, I said I couldn't see Eddie Howe letting Barkley and Townsend run the game the way they did at Kenilworth Road. Well, it was worse. After the first 15 minutes, Ross Barkley got the pace of the game and took the game over. And for the other 80 minutes, he ran it, and we didn't know how to counteract him. I was absolutely gobsmacked at that. Why, our bench couldn't do something about that. And he also twigged, and I'm sure Kevin will probably say it better than I can, twigged the fact that if you go through our midfield, we've got no backup, we've got no reaction. And if you look at their goals again, nearly everyone 2 came from Dan Burn getting skinned on the right-hand side, and the other 2 from through balls from Barkley through our midfield that we couldn't cope with. And it was just what I couldn't understand was why we didn't counteract Barkley, because he ran the game. I see people on all sorts of platforms saying that we should buy him and all the rest of it. No, I'm not. He had a great game, but that Ross Barkley's had great games for over 10 years and then suddenly disappears for another 5 years and then comes back again. So no, I'm not of that, not of that ilk. But he was just so good. And we just didn't counteract them at all. So I was a bit disappointed with that. But as a game, if you want just a football game to enjoy, it was fantastic. But yeah, I mean, we're in the lead, and we could easily, in the first 10 minutes, if we picked up the crosses that were fleeing across their penalty area, been 3 up by them. And Sean Longstaff, because he could easily have had a hat trick, not a brace, on another day. So there was lots of very, very good things, lots of positive things. The biggest positive is that we didn't collapse when we went to 4-2. I have a feeling that if we'd been a Pardew team or a Bruce team or one of those, we would never have recovered from that. But we did, and we kept going. And in the end, could easily have won it. But I've got to say, you're right to praise Luton, Steve. Other teams that have come here have shut up shop. But even when Luton were had their backs against the wall, they didn't shut up shop. They kept playing the football, They had obviously decided to target Dan Burn. And, you know, that we've seen that a lot before. What disappointed me was, if you analyse the goals again, our defenders and our backtracking midfielders and wingers just weren't there. Dan Burn was left 1-to-1 with the way, and that you know that anybody in that situation is going to be in trouble. And then I looked at it on the television because I was at the match live. But when I looked at it at the television, I could see what was done. The Luton manager had got the big number 9 to stand on Shaw's heels all the time. So Shaw couldn't go out and support Burn unless he left the big number 9 absolutely free, and wherever he went, the number 9 with him. So it wasn't that straightforward. But these all howls of crucifying Dan Burn, I'm not for that. Yes, he didn't have a brilliant game, but he was left isolated, and anybody in that position as a fullback, and having been a fullback for many years, you're going to get crucified if your supporting defenders don't cover you. So that I wanted to get that out as well, because some of the stuff I've been reading on here and other places as well, on Twitter elsewhere, about Dan Burn, have just been ridiculous. And however, you have to say that when Tino came on, it was different. And it was different because he was more attuned to what we wanted to do in attacking style than Dan Burn was. And that made quite a difference as well. So lots of negatives, but lots of positives. But the big one is we didn't collapse. At 4-2, we still kept going. You're right to praise Sean Longstaff. He apart from his 2 goals, he did have quite a good game. And in fact, he would have been made man of the match if I was asked. And yeah, it was good. I'm still not convinced Bruno's fit. There was periods of the game where he was struggling to get back, and it's in the gift of the manager who goes on and who doesn't. But I still think that he needs a long rest. At least a couple of weeks, and if he gets his yellow card, he'll probably get it. But yeah, lots of good things, lots of questionable things. But praise to Luton for keeping at it. They could have collapsed after our second goal went in. They always say that the most vulnerable time when you're defending is the first 2 minutes after you've scored a goal. And of course, that's what happened. They scored a goal and we went straight back up and made it 2-1. Well, lots of teams would have collapsed after that. Luton didn't. They just kept going at it. But I must praise the manager for doing his homework. You could see, if you analyse things on Match of the Day after watching it live, you could see where the problems came from. Last thing about Dan Burn, that wasn't a penalty. I mean, I thought it was when I was in the ground, But when I seen it the match of the day, I don't think it was. And if it takes VAR nearly 5 minutes to make its mind up, then they shouldn't be allowed to do it. That's ridiculous, the amount of technology they've got to take that long to do it. It either is or it isn't. What the hell are they debating, you know? It's ridiculous. And then when you watch the Manchester United issue on Saturday night, Casemiro strangling a West Ham player in the penalty area, and he didn't even get spoken to, never mind the penalty area. So we're in a mess with this VAR. The best thing that can happen is that somebody should pull the plug out somewhere and take it from there. Sorry if I went on a bit too there.
No, that's what it's all about, getting your opinion out, mate. Lee, good evening, mate.
Hi, Polly, all right?
Yeah, go on, mate. Give us your review of the game at the weekend.
I think, to be honest, a lot of what George has said is pretty much bang on. The only bits that I'd add to it is you were right to praise Rob Edwards because he did do his own work. It was clear. But on the opposite side, I don't think our manager, and I'm not an Eddie Howe hater, by the way, I actually love the guy. That guy, their right winger, who unfortunately, Dan Burn did fall short, but again, that's not his fault. That Luton guy is clocked at something like 36 kilometres an hour. Now, if a guy on Sky Sports can tell you that, with football these days, and the Premier League certainly, is all based upon stats, analysis, pre-game stats. Surely somebody has fed that to Eddie Howe or the team at some point and said, look, I think we might have a problem here. Now, we all know, and Eddie Howe surely knows, that Dan Burn isn't the quickest. We've got other options, you know. For instance, why didn't we play Tino from minute one? Why didn't we maybe put Trippier at left back? I'm sure he's filled in there before. Even the young lad, Lewis Hall, has probably got more pace than probably Dan Burn. That was always going to be an obvious threat for us. And it is, I feel, in most games. But now is the time. We're going to have to start rolling the dice rather than just keep picking the lad at left back to get exposed. It's not fair on him. But the lad's doing well against Robert. But the thing with the Luton result is, cracking game to watch. Phenomenal. But we can't do 38 of them every year. So then we've got to at some point be beating teams like this. And I know they are on a great run of form, but we've led twice in that game. And like George said, if we were a bit more potent up front, it could have been more. So we've let a lead go, no matter what football game, by your top 5 or 6. If you're leading twice at home, surely you've then got to be looking at going on to maybe seal something. I mean, I know we did in the end, and they were cracking in the end to keep going. But you look at the next games we've got Forest away. I don't know how you lads feel about that. It's a tough one. Bournemouth at home, another tough one. Arsenal away, and then you've got Wolves. Now, I'm not particularly confident about any of them. I don't know if you lads are, probably because my dad's a Forest fan, but I don't know. It just seems that we've got this opportunity now to bring players like Tino in, give Dan Burn the rest that he needs, albeit for his reputation, you know, and a chance to go forward. But Eddie Howe, for me, fell short on that one. I think he should have shown a little bit more cojones, as they say. But again, having said that, he's had a cold all week. So we've got to give him some respite, haven't we? But no, other than that, cracking game. I thought Harvey Barnes, what a finish from that lad. To say he's been not even in the fray, what a cool finish. And I'm looking forward to seeing him back. And hopefully Gordon, and we'll see how he goes.
Okay, good stuff. Chippers, good evening, mate. Give us your views on the 4-4 of the weekend.
Do you know, I was kind of hoping for a boring game, to be honest, and just get 3 points. I would rather have taken that than this. But I'm mixed emotions, to be honest, still, because I think when you score 4 goals at home, no matter who you play, you should be getting 3 points. No, I'm not disrespecting Luton, but when you concede 4 goals at them at home, I don't think it's acceptable, considering the defensive record we had last season. It was unheard of. I don't think we conceded 4 goals in a game last season. Last 3 home games, we've conceded 10 goals, and I don't think that's something that needs looking at. But again, the problems is there seems to be, since Joe Litton's gone out of the team, that left side and the defensive midfield area has been exposed time and time again, and teams have punished for it. Dan Burn had a bad game, but I feel Eddie Howe shouldn't have had him on the pitch to do that. I think, it was blatantly obvious that they were targeting that area, and he still kept them on. And to Howe's credit at Aston Villa, he brought Livermore on when Bailey came on, and that nullified the game completely. He was far too late, in my opinion, on Saturday to nullify it completely, because they'd scored 4 goals and the damage was sort of done. So that's where he needs to learn at that stage, because I think going forward, Forest is going to do the exact same thing. If Burn plays there on Saturday, they're going to target it, because they did in the game on was it Boxing Day, and the battered us. So we can't keep doing that. We can't keep coming back from 4-2 down, as Lee's just said, to get a point. We can't keep doing that for the rest of the season, because we're going to lose more points than gain points. I'm pleased for Harvey Barnes that he's come back, because he's obviously had a frustrating time getting back there, and you know, that goal will do him the world of good. And Wilson coming back, he put a shift in when he came on. It's just, as he comes back, Isaac's injured. That's that's just typical, isn't it? But it's just it's hard to speak it, but it was just frustrating. It really was, because it was a massive opportunity, especially when you look at the results over the weekend, where Man United won, Wolves won, Chelsea got beat, but they were playing Wolves. It just to get them. Obviously, Villa won, which moved that gap further away from if we had any ambitions of top four, which we probably didn't. Just results went against us, when if we had got 3 points, then things might have been different. But and obviously Gordon goes off with that injury, unspecified injury, which no one knows about. Obviously, he hasn't got his cast on now, but he's still on crutches, so that one's another doubt. It was just frustrating, and it's just annoying, because you can see where the dangers are coming from, but nothing was done about it. And this is where Eddie's got to learn, unfortunately. If Forest do the exact same on Saturday, we're going to be repeating ourselves next Monday by saying the exact same thing of, that was the place where they targeted, that's the place where the danger came from, that's the place where they got their joy. And for me, I would take Burn out of the firing line for a few weeks. It's time to take off him a bit and give Livermore a run of games, because he's there, he's fit. You play him, you might as well play him. He's not going to develop or anything by sitting on the bench watching the player who's playing in the left back position getting skinned and being left hung out to dry, sort of. So that's just my opinion. But I'm still frustrated. But if you had said this time last week we'll get 4 points off Villa and Luton, you'd take it, but you would take it the other way around. I.e., drove Villa, beat Luton at home. Fair enough, but it's just like I said, the lost opportunity of other teams around were winning. It was kind of, that's the disappointing thing. If they're drawing each other or whatever, fine, but they won, and it kind of does feel like 2 points drop now. Other teams have gained 2 points or 3 points by winning games. That's the only downside for me.
Okay, Darren, thoughts on the game of the weekend? I mean, obviously, I get where Chippers is coming from. If you said to me we're going to get 4 points out of those two games, Villa away, Luton at home, I would have been over the moon. I think it's just the way that it's happened. It's disappointing, but I think you've got to give Luton credit. They're going on a great run at the moment.
Yeah, you've full credit, Luton, but the joys of supporting Newcastle United, it's entertaining. You know what I mean? It's what we do. We're 1 minute up, 1 minute down. But it just shows you from last season how much we overachieved and what players are not good enough. I feel very how he's trying to stay loyal by playing Dan Burn. And the crowd, I've never heard the crowd. There was a few boos and they were shouting for Tino to come on. Now, I've never heard that in a long time. So I think the crowd has started losing the patience with Dan Burn. So I think that Eddie heard that. I think that's why he made the change. I'm not going to like start. He gives 110%. I couldn't ask anything else on Dan Burn. But like Parrott said, Tino's he's a good young player. Get him on the pitch, and because he plays against Forest, Dan Burn against playing Forest, the Forest manager is going to use attack Dan Burn, because you tell the first 5 minutes, Luton, he had to beat the Dan Burn. Botman had to cover him, but when missing a few times, and that's where the gap come from. But fair play to Newcastle United. We didn't just sit back, we didn't get beat 2-0, we could have given up there and then, but we didn't. We kept going. We caught 2 goals. Assuming we get the 5th goal in the last 20 minutes. But yeah, it's not the end of the world with Drew. Crying out loud, just it's going to happen. But we're going to take a few more knocks this season, unfortunately, till we get get rid of the deadwood and then get new players in. You say Andy Gunn up front, he's not forward, and Amaral was on the left. He didn't know what to do. You need to find instruction book what to do on the left hand side. Murphy done all right, but he done no great on the right hand side. But Bruno, like I say, I don't think he's injured. But we've got nothing in the midfield. We've got no change. We can't do nothing. We're kind of unfortunately the free midfield players are going to keep on playing unless Bruno gets near the con. It's a matter of 2 games. Hopefully Joe Willock's back next game. That would be good. But just got to keep on going, and it's not the end of the world. Like, to some of the reaction on, I just cringe, of course we'll win every game, but we're not. We're only human. It's just overachieved last year, but back to realistic now, aren't we? So that's my opinion.
Okay. Good evening, the mighty Win. Hope you're well, mate. Give us your views on the game of the weekend.
Good evening, boys. Well, I'm not as down as everybody else seems to be, but it appears that the Newcastle crowd always have to have a scapegoat when things go wrong. And right now it's BDB.
Yep.
Trips went through a bad spell, but there was none of this vitriol that BDB's getting at the minute. As I said in a comment earlier on, quality wingers will skin even world-class fullbacks once or twice in a game. It doesn't matter who the fullback is. If you're a quality winger, you'll beat your man once or twice in a game. And that's what happened on Saturday. He was skinned twice. The problem is we got beat. When Anthony Gordon roasted Trent Alexander-Arnold at the park, he just had him on toast. But the Scousers weren't all screaming for Trent Alexander-Arnold's head because they won the game. It was all forgotten. And I just think, I don't know that the problem for me is the midfield. The midfield, as it stands right now, is non-existent. Miley's had his little blaze of glory in the sun, but God bless him, he's going to come good. There's no doubt about that. But he's not ready for week in, week out football of that nature at the minute. He should be coming on with 20 minutes to go when we're winning 3-0. But sadly, that's where we are at the minute with the injury situation, and that is the problem with Newcastle at the minute. That's the only problem. The injury situation, and people keep on downplaying it and saying we can't keep on using injuries, but we can, because I don't know if you saw the 4-2-4 analysis. Out of the 22 games we'd played prior to the Luton game, and a squad of 22, he had 2 players in every position, so that's effectively 484 player games that we should have had available. We actually had 250, just over half of the players available, which meant that you had 12, 13 players playing every single game. And that was always going to take its toll, especially in December when we had the 10 games in 30 days, game every 3 days. So I'm not despondent at all. I think everything will come good. Trust in Eddie, and we'll be okay.
Great stuff, mate. Good point, Win. And the only reason Walker's a top full back is his pace to keep up with wingers. Otherwise, he's as good as the next player. Very few have that pace. Good point. Spenny, give us your views on the weekend.
Pros, Longstop scored 2 goals. We scored 4. Mali was man of the match for me. He was absolutely brilliant with his balls, going over and getting the goals for them.
Wow.
He was the best player on the pitch for Newcastle. Longstaff, yes, he scored the 2 goals, but his position play in midfield, and he lost the ball for the first goal with Luton as well, was his fault, which couldn't put on the thing. Against Burn, yes, he left the penalty in, but what you're supposed to do when you're marking a lad, like the lad just said, who can run like 100 metres in about 12 seconds. Tino should have been playing from the start for me, but I'm not the manager to make that decision. For me, we've been waking up midfield for a long time, regardless of the injuries, regardless we play Mali all the time. We haven't got a decent DCM. Simple as that. For me, yes, the crowd got on the Tino to get him on the pitch, but the crowd shouldn't be doing that at the time. It's up to the manager who comes on the pitch. AC knows the tactics more than anybody else on this panel, or anyone who goes and watches the match. He's the most experienced person in that stadium. He makes the decisions. That's why he gets paid for. End of the day, we played Luton. Yes, we drew 4 apiece. Well, Luton, again, before that, scored about 2 or 3 goals in about 6 minutes against an opposition.
Right.
The last game they played. They're going to do it and do it again to other teams, and the other teams won't come back and from 2 goals behind and get back in and get a result. Because they'll win games the way they're playing. They're just kicking players. They just kicked our players all game. And the referee didn't give me a yellow card out till the second half, which I was annoyed about, because they were kicking the crap out of Bruno and Gordon all over. It's like I said to you, Steve, it's like Wimbledon. They played like Wimbledon in the 80s and 90s. Kick and rush, kick them as much as you can, get them wound up. Long ball, bang, you goal. Corners, free kicks. There's your goals. You get out into there, you get into the opposition's backs by grabbing them and pushing them and getting in their heads, and this is how you get goals. This is how Luton get goals. For me, I'm pleased. In the end of the day, I'm pleased we got a draw. Because no one deserved to win that game today. Yes, on Saturday for me. They were even Steven. A draw was a good result, a fair result for both teams. Because both teams were at it, and it was a very enjoyable game to watch as well, football-wise. I enjoyed it. But I was disheartened. It felt as though we lost because we got the draw.
Wow, it just shows you the different sides of things. I actually came out of that game. I thoroughly enjoyed the game. I
enjoyed the game, Steve.
We're not going to get relegated.
No,
and we're not going to win the league this season, but we will qualify for Europe. And I genuinely came out of that game entertained. And you know what? When we went 4-2 down, I turned to my dad and said, "We're still going to get something out this game." Yeah. That wouldn't have happened under Steve Bruce. Would have been sitting or under any of those managers under Ashley. I would have sat there and gone, "We're going to this is a waste of time." This,
well, like George said weeks ago, Steve, when you're about 2 goals behind, George said you'll still think that team will score because of the fitness.
I genuinely think, and I did. I think everybody turned. Certainly, my family. We sit together and we're all sitting there. We all turned at half time and went, "What changes would you make?" I think we all said, "I'd take Almiron off, or I'd take Murphy off, and I'd take Burn off."
I was going to that point there. So I was going to go to that point there, mate. Sorry.
Yeah,
I was going to get to that point. The reason why Burn got skinned inside out was because of Almiron.
Yeah, remember he's recovering from.
Oh, yeah, you've got to give the right with that. He got skinned. There's 5 minutes. He got skinned 2 weeks.
But he's recovering. Almiron's recovering from illness.
You can't blame Almiron for that.
He was poor. He was poor.
He was.
Go on, Spenny.
The point I was making was Almiron is world class, and he goes back and he protects Trippier when he's going forward. Mm-hmm. When he was playing with Burn, he didn't do that. He didn't protect Burn. He wasn't going back as quick enough to protect Burn, and he was with Trippier. Yeah, that's where the problem was.
I don't think he had it in him. And then they swapped them. Yes. And we've got unfortunately we've got Jacob Murphy coming back from injury, who had to play a really good part. And he played the Villa game. He's probably knackered. He's not up to full fitness. And so we literally swapped one slow winger for another slow winger. And Burn's not the quickest, and he gets caught out of position. It's not all down to Dan Burn.
I'm not blaming Dan Burn. You know that, Steve. I'm blaming the other players on the team. What I was very, very good at and really liked was the fitness of John Barnes when he came on that pitch. He looked fitter than Almiron, and he looked fitter than Murphy when he came on. And we've done well keeping them back that long before rushing them back to injury to make them look like that.
Yeah, I agree, mate. Anyway, moving on to you, Barry. Everyone's got plenty to say tonight, and I think pretty much we're all agreed. I don't think anyone's blaming John's blaming Almiron for Burns' poor position and his madness. We're just saying that overall it wasn't just down to Dan Burn.
Yeah.
The defeat wasn't just down to Dan Burn, John. We're saying that Almiron didn't have a great game. There's a few people didn't. I thought Lewis Miley was outstanding in the first half. I thought he was terrible in the second half. He was pulling. It looked as if he was pulling a cart on his back.
He looked very light in the second half, didn't he?
Yeah.
Of course he did. Yeah, leggy's the word to use.
My player of the match, though, Steve, because of the way he was the first
He was outstanding the first half. There's no doubt about it. But let's remember,
I wouldn't give man a match like.
He's 17 years of age, and the kid's been outstanding. Do you know what I mean? But you know those games, man. Honestly, that you should be delighted to go to a game like that. And look, we're not going to win every game. Nobody wins every game, but that was fantastic. It really was. And no, people didn't leave the game. I thought lots of people stayed blue.
Yeah, that's rubbish.
I think that's rubbish. It is rubbish. Yeah, go on then, Barry. You've had to wait a bit for your turn. Not as long as Kev.
You find it's fascinating to listen to people's views because obviously everybody gets a different perspective out of it. I mean, personally, I hated the game. Simply hated it because I hate it when we are struggling like that. I totally agree with what you guys are saying that this team under Eddie Howe, you know that they're going to come back, that they're going to have a damn good goal. But I was sitting like this for like periods of the game. I've got knee fingernails left on either hand because I absolutely hate games like that where you're just totally under the cosh. I'm probably going to get slated, but I think all the stick that Burns getting is absolutely totally out of hand. I think we are seriously missing Big Joe. That lack of defensive midfielder is leaving the defense wide open on both sides. Yes, the kid skinned Burn, but then Burn played absolutely amazing against Aston Villa against another speedy winger and didn't have any problems. It's pluses and minuses. Everybody's saying, oh, play Tino, he's much better than Burn. Defensively, he's not. Attacking, he is. Speed, he is. Defensively, he's not that much better than Burn. He's better in the air. He seems to judge his tackles better. So there's pluses and minuses to it. But I think the issue with the game is Eddie should have recognised it earlier, that there was that issue there. It's about being proactive and sort of recognising the problems, not leaving it till however many times Burn gets skinned and then he's become a scapegoat for the fans again. It's exactly what you guys said. We've gone from Trippier, we've got Almiron every now and again. We go backwards and forwards. Chris Wood got it not so long ago before he left. He was getting all the stick. Why don't we support the players instead of having a dig at them? Everybody has a bad game. The best players I was reading the grief that Messi's getting for not playing in his game over wherever it was because he didn't come off the bench and he's getting slagged off to be absolutely slated. It's just as if fans want to go out to have a pop at players. I thought it was a good game if you weren't in Newcastle support.
Fans are entitled to the opinion, though, Barry.
Sorry?
Fans are entitled to the opinion, you know what I mean? Like,
but there's a line, Darren, and I think other fans recently are stepping way over the line.
We go to a game, we spend our hard-earned money, and they say we are entitled to have opinion. I don't agree with people booing. That's out of order. People did boo down there.
It's verging on abuse.
I disagree with that completely. But fans are entitled to the honest opinion.
It's not slagging off the players out, Barry. It's what it is. It's slagging off the positions we wake at, and they're playing on their positions. That's what it is.
Not all of it, though. A lot of it's at the players. It has been at the players.
The left back position is weak, and the centre midfield is weak. The rest,
but Tino's not a left back either. He can play there. He's the only left back we've got fit at the club is bloody Paul Dummett, and he's not going to get the team for a million years.
He's not even a left back. He's a centre midfielder left.
Well, he's got the most experience out of any of them in that position.
Paul Dummett's a left. Paul Dummett's a left back.
Paul Dummett's. Eddie says Paul's a left back.
You've had to wait 34 minutes, Kev. You probably had time to make some Lego or an air.
I've got Lego right here, and I've been writing all these bloody notes down.
But go on, give us your views, mate. Give us your views on what you've heard.
Well,
and what you saw.
Well, I was driving. Second half, I was driving up to my games for my tournaments and stuff like that. So second half, I can't really give a full analysis, but from what I've seen, and I've just looked up Luton's starting 11 Basically, they played a 3-2-4-1, overloaded our midfield, created a 5. We, as I've said for weeks, when we push as a 3 in the middle of midfield, they just left 2 sitting in between that gap, in between the lines. Ball gets played along to their big centre forward. They win the second ball because there's nobody there to win it for us. With Bruno, with Longstaff and Miley making certain runs in behind, which we're synonymous to do, and we've scored goals from it. That's how long he scored his goal, or a couple of goals, and we should have done a lot better within the final third and finish in the attack. But again, it's that, and I'll not use the word because in terms of confusion, it's not flat, but it's square. We're very square when we get pushed high up the field. There's no depth. So when they go long and kick and rush, again, it happened against Everton. It happened against Forest. When they go long, we struggle because of the way we press. There's no depth in that. And if you've got a big lad who I thought was fabulous there, centre forward, by the way, he was a big, strong lad. If you've got somebody pinned up against you, is it back 4, back 3? It doesn't matter who it is. And then he'll occupy those 2 centre halves. And that means with Kieran Trippier running down the right side, that means Dan Burns left in a bit of a, he's I can't remember who said it, but he's isolated. And he's in no man's land. Yeah, he's isolated. He's in no man's land. He doesn't know whether to tuck in and help out. He doesn't know whether to drop in and help out with the 2 in front of him, or does he go out to the wide man? So he's very, not saying he's confused, but the confusion sets in for him. So I'm not blaming Dan Burn. I just think he's just been left out on a desert island and he's have to figuring it out by himself. That's not his fault. That's not Eddie's fault. That's just how it is. But again, every team that we've come up against and had problems with is overloaded midfields, and we can't do that. Not saying we haven't got the players to cope. It's just the way that we should, or way we play, and we'll just say, okay, then, well, you're going to send, I don't know, however many, 6 or 7 forward. Okay, well, we'll just keep 3 or 4 in between lines, and we can break the line through with a pass. But I tell you what, fair play to Luton. They're not a bad side. They're fighting for everything. They're fighting for staying in this Premier Division, and they weren't bad on the eye. I thought Ross Barkley controlled it. Completely agree with George. He controlled the game right from the start. Even though we went 2-1 up, I thought we should have controlled it through our possession, but we didn't. That's when you start controlling the game through our possession-based game, and whatever we want to go from there and do, and get not more goals, but just consolidate within the game, because it was end to end. It was stretched. That's what they wanted. But again, I thought, excuse me, everybody's jumping, like I said, everybody's jumping on Dan Burn. But again, if you've got 2 number 8s, essentially, Miley and Longstaff making a run in behind, then you've got Miggy and Gordon doing the same thing, making runs wide or inverted, doing double movements, then you're going to have problems. You can't, there's space. And I disagree with Spenny a little bit that it's Miggy's job to get back and tuck in. Yeah. No, it's the central midfielder to cover across, not the wide man. So that's the problem. There's no depth in there. Bruno could even do that, but he gets too far advanced. And we'll leave about a 20, 30-yard gap or somewhere around in that, where they'll just play and just dump it in behind or dump it in the middle. And it was an easy out ball for them. And then, again, Everton done it. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. If you've got 2 players or 3 players, one high, 1 in between the 2 in between the lines, and they're going to win second balls. And you just give it to Ross Barkley, they'll advance up the pitch, and he'll just start to dictate play, what he did. And the final controversial statement that I would make is I wouldn't drop Burn. However, I would go, because Forest will do the same. They'll play a 4-2-3-1 and do exactly the same. Wood, I believe what I read, is injured. Are not going to make the game, unfortunately, Steve. So you'll not see him. I would. Eddie's stubborn. Coaches are stubborn. They don't want to change the way they play. I would change, not the way we play, but I would change shape. I would play 3 and keep Dan Burn in there. and I would play Trippier and Tino Livramento either side, with Bruno Longstaff, Miley, and Wilson up front. Then we can control that central midfield area with a bit more depth and a bit more height. That's not negative. That's just a observation that I've seen, just to consolidate middle. We need to. Football games are won in midfield for the most part. Obviously, goal scorers score, defenders keep them out, but mainly it's in the midfield area. If we get overloaded with Morgan Gibbs-White, Alanga on the right side, who can fly, then you can double up on him. It's less pressure on Dan Burn. Tino can do that job. It's more of a midfield role than a defensive role. Trips can run up and down all day because he does it anyway. And then that just alleviates some pressure from that central three. So overall, it was a good game. A little bit nervous. My team, my little 6-year-old, 7-year-olds had the same game in the afternoon. It was 4-4. It was a nail biter. It was scored in the last minute. So, it seemed to be the theme of the day. But, moving forward with the games that we have, it's not an easy run with Forest, Bournemouth, Arsenal, Wolves, and Chelsea. That's not an easy run. So I think Eddie might have to have a hard look and think and sit down whether do we change shape. Because if we go 4-3-3, it's just going to happen exactly. And agree with Chippers, we'll be talking about exactly the same stuff next Monday.
I don't think you played the three at the back. No, I don't think you played the three at the back.
All right, let's go around.
Let's go around. Opinion, and that's what I see. And
let's go around and start with you.
If you get overloaded in midfield, you have to counteract that. If you play 3 and they've got 5, we're overloaded. That's simple math.
And that's the other reason there was nobody to support Burn. That's the other reason nobody to support Burn.
It's called overloads. And if they overload you, then you're gonna. It's simple maths. If you get football's a numbers game. If you get overloaded in certain areas of the field, you're gonna get done. And I felt sorry for Dan Burn because every time that lad got the ball, I just knew he was gonna get, because he's not very good in the 1v1 situation. He can't move his feet. He can't turn and run. But he can, but it's not as a pacey fullback. But he gets caught in between, so he gives him too much space to allow that to happen. So,
93% on our community vote said they would drop Dan Burn and play Tino Livramento next week. So going around the board, starting with you, Kev. Next game against Forest, would you play Tino Livramento and drop Dan Burn?
No, I'll play both. I've just said I'll play both. I'll change my shape.
All right, you change your shape. Barry?
I'd play Burn and keep Tino if we do struggle and swap them over.
Right. Okay. Spenny?
I'll drop Burn and put Dummett on because he's the only left back in the new spit.
Right, okay. I know this is all about opinions. Mighty Win, what would you do?
I'd keep Dan Burn, best defence in the league last year.
Good point. Darren?
Play Tino all day long, drop Dan Burn, 100%.
Okay. Chippers?
Yeah, I think we need to take Dan Burn out of the firing line for a few weeks because it's not fair on the lad, the abuse he's getting, and it's wrong. But people are still going to keep doing it if a goal comes from that area of the pitch next week and he's playing the nasty way, they're going to blame him. So yeah, I would take him out for Tino for this weekend.
Right. Okay. Lee?
Just looking at Forest, they've got that big fella at Awonye, is it up front?
Yeah.
And looking at their wingers, it's going to be exactly the same going forward as Luton. So if he's adamant that he's going to stick with the same shape, which I agree with Kev, I'd completely change it. I'd keep Dan Burn. I'd put him in at centre back, his natural position, and give the lad some confidence back. And then I would go with Tino on the left. So I agree with Kev, but I don't think Howe's got it in him to change the shape. So yeah, in answer to that, I would drop Burn for Livramento and give the lad a rest as such.
George?
Exactly what Kevin said. I would change the shape and play both Livramento and Dan Burn. Like I said at the beginning, I was critical as I watched the game, but the more I've watched the match and the more I watched Match of the Day and analysed it slightly more dispassionately than when you're there, I could see, as somebody who's played fullback for years, that Dan Burn was completely isolated. And you've got to give credit to the Luton manager. The two big forwards sat on the heels of Shaw and Botman, so they couldn't go out to support Dan Burn. And as Kevin says, the midfield's so far up, that midfielder on that side that should be in a position to support Burn wasn't even that in our half.
So put Dominic in. Not put Dominic in, like George.
No, well, no, not really. No.
He's working at Asda.
Big shout out to Dale Ranson, who's in the chat. As many of you know, we lost Kenny, his dad, not so long ago. And our thoughts go out to the Ranson family. He was a big part of the nufc Matters community. We met him as well many times. Great guy. Yeah, big shout out to all the Ranson family. We're all there for you. We send our love and our best wishes and commiserations, and hope you're coping through this horrendous time. But your dad was a top man. You should be very, very proud of him. Okay, 15 minutes left of the show. Usually I would ask you for a prediction for the Forest game. I'll do that right at the end. Just want to talk about Alexander Isak. We've heard today, George, he's out for another 2 games. I mean, he's missed a lot of games in his short period at Newcastle. I'm disappointed, George, in that. There's no doubt the kid could be a world-class striker, but we've got a major problem here. I think we've got Wilson and we've got him. Neither one seems to be able to to run for a big period of games. I think we've talked about potentially making, a big signing in the summer, and we need to make it a forward. But I still think we need 2, George. I mean, what's your views on Isak? Because teams are queuing up to potentially, there's plenty of suitors out there would buy him. Would you cash in with this injury, these injuries he seems to be picking up, or would you take a chance and keep a hold of him?
No, I'd take a chance and keep a hold of them, and I'd send them to a good doctor who knows something about groins, because that's what's missing. It's the same injury. So for God's sake, surely with the money we've got in Newcastle United, they can find a specialist who knows how to put that right. I mean, we've done it for other players with weird injury things, and it's managed to put them right, and we're able to keep them and move on. So Isak's a talent. He is a world-class talent now, and he'll only get better as he matures. I mean, his greatest fan is Ibrahim. I can't say his name now. The big Swedish guy thinks he's fantastic, and he's right. So I would keep him, but I would seriously find a specialist that knows something about groins, because the people that's been looking after him so far don't, in my opinion, or they're bringing him back too soon. He's not getting a long enough rest to cure what's there. So, no, I wouldn't sell him. I would keep him and get his groin sorted out.
All right, Lee.
Yeah, no, I'll probably say exactly what George said. I'd definitely keep him. Before we signed him, he was one guy that I used to watch quite a lot on the YouTube. So I'm a big fan of him. But I think it's our common to pardon the pun, it's been our Achilles heel all year, hasn't it? We can't seem to get a striker that can do more than 4 or 5 games. Now, if you look at Isak, he is a big, tall lad. He's a beanpole of a striker. Callum Wilson's not the biggest lad, is he? What is he, 5'11", something like that? I think in the summer, if we were going to look at improving the forwards, we need to have someone a bit more robust. I mean, we've just been talking about 2 teams there, Nottingham Forest and Luton, and we're talking about the strikers, and he's a big, robust lad. I think we need to add that to our squad. But I'd definitely keep Isak and probably Wilson for another year, just to be kind of like 3rd choice, something like that.
Okay, Chippers.
I don't understand why people are saying get rid of him. The bloke.
It's not getting rid of him. It's not getting rid of him.
Yeah.
But he's injury prone, Chippers. He's injury prone, and he's not. This isn't just one season now. We're into the 2nd season. Yeah. We're not getting his goals. His goals for game ratio are good, but just look at Callum Wilson. He's 3rd top scorer in Newcastle United's history. He scored 50 goals in 100 odd games. Yet people are saying sell Callum Wilson, get rid of Callum Wilson. He's no good. His stats are there for all to see. They're good, but we seem to have 2 injury-prone strikers.
For me, I think the Wilson. Isak screams of somebody who's going to need an operation, because if it keeps. I heard you. I think you said was it yesterday on the Professionals, and you said it on Friday night that you think he needs an operation. I'm on the same boat. I think they're literally Pritt sticking it at the end of the season to try and get through it, and then send them away for it. Personally, I think the injuries he's getting is down to the fact of we haven't got strikers to rotate him with. We've got one striker who's pretty much identical to him. We haven't got a striker that's fully fit for the full season that can take the workload off them. But these players who are quality players, they tend to be the same. They tend to pick up these muscles injuries, and it's just the problem is we've had nearly everybody's had these injuries at the club this season, and we've had a lot of games. And I don't want to make excuses, but it's there in black and white, the injury record we've had this season. And when one of these comes back from injury, the other one seems to get injured, and vice versa. But the reason I would say Isaac's better is because of his age. He's got more age about him than Wilson's. How old's Wilson? 30 or something, 31. So for me, the injuries, are for me, Isaac will recover quicker, but I do think an operation will be required. But of course, I'd keep him. For me, there's everything that Wilson may go in the summer, and I do agree that we will need 2 strikers in the summer. I think 2 will have to sign 2, because we can't have another season of Wilson and Isaac, because you're just not going to get games out of them. And we're going to have eventually Anthony Gordon playing as a striker at some stage. So, yeah, I'd keep him. But again, down in the summer, it'll be a case of we need 2 strikers as well, depending on if Wilson stays or goes.
We could have got Papi Cisse, on a free.
Yeah, well, somebody called Barry Hogan has just said, what about Chris Wood? He's rarely injured, but he's injured this weekend.
Dwight Gale's been released, hasn't he? Dwight Gale's been released by Stoke, hasn't he?
Yeah, we'll stop there before that madness. And we're not, listen, I'm just hypothetically throwing it out there. If somebody said, madness, this chat, West Monk Mag, you're talking about selling him. But yeah, look, people are saying sell Callum Wilson, get rid of Callum Wilson. And I know he's younger, Isaac's younger, but, these injuries are consistently happening. And it's just, if we're going to rely on him, then we need the injury sorted out. We're going to need another 2 strikers. That's where we need to be, for me anyway. Darren, thoughts on the striker situation? It's frustrating, isn't it?
It's very frustrating. Another warm up. I do watch the warm up, but he's always growing. Is he stretching them properly before he warms up? But because he had that operation early on the season, but who knows? But yes, keep him and just see how it goes. But I wouldn't say that he is. I think he's still got more to deliver. So I would keep him.
All right. Yeah. Look, it's a hypothetical. It's just I'm throwing it out there. But what's your thoughts on the striker situation? There's just we kind of get them fit at the same time. That's the problem, isn't it? That is the problem, I guess.
Yeah, totally. It's frustrating. Like, because you tell him Sunday was as soon as Wilson come on, he was their centre half couldn't deal with him because he was spinning them, and you could tell.
You pushing on your ass.
You need some booster cushions because they can't see you. I've had 2 great comments tonight. That's the first one. And the other one was from Ray Burrow, who said, could you put all the Baldies on the same row like a box of eggs?
It's Easter.
It is Easter.
You even got a little lion on there.
Oh my God, that's brilliant. Mighty Win, give us your views on this.
Well, I've said quite a few times, the best ability any player can have is availability. And if you're not available, you can be the best player in the world. But if you're not available, you're not used to anybody. And we've been through this situation now, last season and this season. It was also noticeable that when we had them both fit last season, they were both up in that game. They were both scoring 2 and then getting dropped, and then the other one coming in scoring 2, getting dropped because they were on their toes. And that was the same with Miggy last season when he had Murphy on his back. He was up in his game and he went through a purple patch. It's competition, and we just haven't had competition all season. I hope that we were beyond the situation of being a selling club. But if by selling, put it this way, if I was going to sell one of our players for 100 million, my first choice would be Isaac, my second choice would be Bruno, and my last choice would be J7. But again, we're assuming he's going to come back as good as he went away. You know, if Darren Eales is telling us we've got to sell to buy, if that's what we've got to do, that's what we've got to do. So, Isaac has shown a lot of good moments, some very good moments, but he's still a bit late. He looks lightweight to me. And given the choice of the two, I would, if they were both fit, and I've got the choice of the two, I would have Callum up front. I thought he had a good game on Saturday when he came on. He was really strong and fast. But I hope that we're past those days of having to sell our best players.
Yeah, no, I think so. I mean, look, I was just putting it out there hypothetically. I just think the injury situation is a nightmare. And I think, we're going to have to sell a player at some point, to balance the FFP out. And potentially that could be one of those situations that develops. Who knows? We could sell him for 75 million, which gives us a hell of a lot of money to spend, and go out and buy Osherman. Who knows?
I wouldn't sell him for 75 million because that wouldn't buy Osherman.
No, 75. But you treble your money, don't you? On the way that FFP works, you could sell them for 100 million and have 300 million to spend. That's the way I understand.
If we bought them for 60 million, Steve.
So you have to take it off. So 100 million you sell them for to somebody who wants them, Spenny. How does it work?
60 million. Sorry, you buy them for 60 million, right? Yeah. And you got 40 million, so you treble the 40 million.
So that would be 120 million.
120 million.
All right, okay. Well, that gives you a bit of food for thought. You know better than me, Spenny. So, for me, the question to you is, what do you do? What do you do with two strikers that are both injured?
Well, I'm just going to clear something up. Anyone who knows Darren, he's about 7 foot tall, and when you walk with him, he's like Jeff Capes on Wiz.
Yeah.
In the summer, we've got two strikers coming back, Mintef and Kulo. Isaac, yes, he's injury prone, but it possibly is. Groin injuries are hard to get rid of. Even in operations, don't get rid of them sometimes.
Yeah,
he's obviously the best player on that pitch when he's playing for Newcastle, Isaac. For me, it's about the best striker I've seen since Shearer as well. That's including Wilson. He's absolutely fantastic. For me, it's definitely a no to sell Isaac, because it's strikers like that are hard to come by. You'll have to buy about two to get the same as like what you've got there.
All right, interesting stuff, Barry.
I think it's like the guys were saying before. It's about rotation, isn't it? And we haven't had that. We've got two strikers who both got their own great attributes, but who unfortunately are picking up injuries right, left, and centre. The problem with Isaac is I'm hoping it's just a recent thing. Obviously, we're well aware that Wilson has long-term injury problems that do come back to haunt him on a quite a regular basis. I mean, I totally agree with Spenny. I think Mint is going to come back, and I think he'll be kept at the side next year. So there's three strikers. I would go out and buy Ferguson. I would buy the young kid, which would give us 4, and then we can alternate them backwards and forwards. I think any top side needs to have at least 3, possibly 4 good strikers. I'm not saying there would be world beaters yet, but obviously they're all going to develop, like the guys have said. When the two of them are interacting and obviously coming on, they challenge each other to get better. That's definitely there. When Wilson and Isaac were together or coming, one was replacing the other, it's egging them both on all the time. And I think if we got 3 or 4, which is what you guys have said, the three amigos have said, we need a couple of young strikers coming through. Minty, I think, is going to be one of them. I'm not sure about Keogh. I hope he does, because I think he looked really good. I think he's been sent out on a couple of bad loan spells, and I'm hoping he's still got it in him. But I think we just
Harrison now as well, of course.
Sorry,
Harrison
now as well.
Harrison. Yep, he looks a quality player. He's there's a lot of high expectations, especially when you listen to their fans and how disgusted they were that they let him go.
You don't put 25% release clause on him, do you, when you sell him? He's not a bad player, especially our age.
So I think we're going to be there. I think the decision you've got to make is whether you cash in on Wilson, because it's simply because of his age, and it's the worry that you'll not get that much for him anyway. But that's a decision the club will have to make. But if they do, then I'm praying like mad that they start replacing them rather than what they did in January, where they didn't bring anybody in, which I think has really cost us badly. And I know money's a huge issue, but surely they could have brought another couple of players in on loan. It wouldn't have done that much financially. I think it's left us with huge gaps in the squad.
Kev, it's a hypothetical one, but yeah, strikers both injured most of the season. Bit of a nightmare for us. Do you keep both of them and hope that we can get them, fully fit next season and available at the same time, or do we look to maybe cash in on one and bring in two?
Before we start, I'm finished my Lego. Just so you know.
What is this?
Is that a new left back?
Goes with your stupid jacket.
No.
Goes with your stupid jacket you're on.
A match, Penny, a match. If we had the option to get rid of one, I'll get rid of Wilson because of its value. You're not going to get much for Wilson.
I don't think you'll get anything for Wilson.
Well, better than nothing.
People have paid 30 million for him just before the end of the window.
Yeah, it's better than nothing. So anything's coming in, anything's coming in.
Would you pay 30 million for him, George? If you were the buy-in chairman, would you pay 30 million for him?
But people were prepared to pay.
I'll sell him for 15 million, mate. I'll sell him for 15 million, not 30.
So with the workload that they have to go through in the role that they play, it's going to take a toll on anybody's body. However, there's just different makeups. I think, like you said, in terms of the makeup, one's slight, one's a bigger build, and it's all body types and this and that, and what actually can they go through. So again, like I said earlier, you have to maybe change your game. You have to maybe change your tactic. You maybe have to change a lot of things per player, or keep it relative to what you have, and horses for courses essentially. But I would go, and I agree with Barry, Ferguson from Brighton. I think he'd be a good shout. A younger version of, or the lad even played for Luton. The lad up front for Luton, he's a big centre forward that just changes games when you need to change the game. But
I would sign him.
Yeah, I agree. I thought he's got a bit of ability about him. He's got a bit of pace, and test Luton's resolve and see what happens. But if push comes to shove, I'll just get rid of one of them in terms of Callum Wilson. But if they come into some remarkable goal scoring form, then into the back end of the season, then look, do you keep a hold of them? Then get somebody younger in, or get somebody in like the lad. Not even going to attempt to pronounce his name. The lad from Luton, or somebody of that ilk.
We've got a canny record buying centre forwards from Luton, by the way.
Yeah, you can't judge him on one season wonder, though, can you? You can't
tell you what, he's
one season wonder. You kind of buy him one season after one season.
What I often say about that, Kev, is Eddie likes his versatile players. He'll probably get a centre forward who'll play behind the centre forward or play a centre forward like Isaac does.
Right, but you're not going to get you're not getting the game output what they're providing. Look, you have to look at longevity in somebody who's going to be a constant, not in and out. Yes, we'll have big games, we'll have cup games and this and that. But I understand what you're saying in terms of the versatility. But
you could still play, but you could play behind the one that's on the striker and play in different.
That's what I'm saying in terms of changing shape, changing this and that. So if you have a big, a big number 9 that's all he does. Now you know what you're getting from him. If you have the effects of the world, if you have others,
after one season, though. Yes,
I'm not saying him. I'm just it's just a thing. If you have a big number 9 who you know what you're going to get out of him, like Alan Shearer didn't drift out wide, but he didn't play in a wide role. It was a different shape. It was a different system. He was a true number 9. We need a true centre forward.
He wasn't that
tall. Get Supermac back.
Well, that's what Wynne was trying to say. I think Supermac came from Luton, didn't he?
Absolutely,
he did.
Unfortunately, as Barry says, so did Darren McDonough. On that positive note from Barry, we'll leave it there. Good point, Barry, says Donald. Where are you tonight, Donald? Chipping in, batting at your mate. Listen.
Sorry.
George. Yeah, George, we've overrun and we haven't played the ads, which I'll have to play at the end. Go on.
I was just going to ask Kevin, is there a coach in the United Kingdom that knows how to take a bloody throw-in? Because I haven't seen one yet, Kevin.
Oh, he's done it again about throw-ins.
No, I seen the one in Liverpool that actually pulled him up for it.
Excruciating.
Rory
I've seen
I was like,
chucking from the side. It me and you, George, it drives me up the wall.
Absolutely.
Steve Watson is the best throw-in I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was a gimmick. I'm talking about real throw-ins. And what they need to do is go and find some videos of Charlie Mitten's team and watch them take throw-ins. Because I was part of that squad of people who had to go through Mitten's throw-ins, and we thought it was daft at the beginning, but at the end when we started scoring goals from him, it looked as though it mattered. But
the ones cameras then, like George.
Yeah,
you have cameras then.
Well, it's bound to be film.
I was only joking.
One or two of the teams.
There we go, Spenny.
No, it's got rid of the gaslight then, Spenny.
Good gas here.
Yeah, Benny says Steve Braith's desperate to wrap this up, but George is having none of it.
Sorry.
He wants to gun, doesn't he?
He does. It's been a great night. It's been a great night. Thanks to Kevin, to Barry, to Spenny, to the mighty Win, to Darren, to Chippers, to Lee, and to George. But thanks to everybody in the chat and the administrators.
Good to see you, lads. Good to see you.
And, back tomorrow night.
3-0 to the Toon against Forest.
3-0 to the Toon, says Spenny. Barry, what do you say?
2-0.
2-0. Kevin?
2-1.
2-1. Mighty Win?
I'll say the same as I said before the Luton game. I'll be happy with a 1-0.
A 1-0. Darren?
1-1.
1-1. Sam?
We'll go for a draw, but it all depends on what team Eddie outputs out, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is an Aston Villa.
I'm going for a 2-1 win. Lee?
1-1, I think, mate.
1-1. George, I'll get your views. John, I'll get your views on Friday. You'll have time to think about it, George. Okay. All right. Thanks very much, folks. Take care. See you later.
Good to see you.
A big thanks to all our sponsors: Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay as you go waste collection. Thanks again to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. If you'd like to order some, then give them a call on 01768 210 102. Go to the website mrvickies.co.uk or drop them an email, info@mrvickies.co.uk. A big thanks to United Group Travel. They're a family firm based in Morpeth with pickups throughout the Northeast. No strangers on our tours, just people you haven't met yet. They've got a presence on Facebook and a website, unitedgrouptravel.com. If you want to make a booking, give them a call on 01670 632 460 or mobiles 0791 666 4174 0795 71 41654. Thanks to Darren Baldwin Funerals, independent funeral directors. Let us look after you in your time of need. They're based on Old Durham Road in Gateshead, and you can contact them at their website, darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk. Email darren@darrenbaldwinfunerals.co.uk or give them a call, 0191 478 2730. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the help with the technical side of things. And a big thanks to New Workwear. You can find them at newworkwear.com. If you want to help the channel, hit the thumb up to subscribe, hit the subscribe button, and share to your other social media. You can also pay a one-off fee of £25 to get a scarf, a cup, a pen, and a membership card. Go to the website, nufcmatters.com, and click membership, or put your smartphone over this QR code. We also support the food bank on this channel. If you want to make some donations virtually, go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk and make a donation today. We're also a podcast on Spotify, iTunes, and other podcast providers. Just search NUFC Matters. I'm also a part of the Northeast Footy Brekkie Show. You can listen to that Monday to Friday, 7 till 9,
at thetooneuk.com.